the last time I went to Tintagle was many years ago now, and I was very young, so it's safe to say I don't really remember anything of it. However, I do know the story of the fact that there was a dead cow floating in the water when we went, and my parents spent the entire time trying to explain that the cow was not dead, it was just swimming. There's no cow there, it's not dead, it's fine, it's not dead, it's fine. Anyway, I now only remember that there was a dead cow at Tintagle. However, this trip, there was no dead cow, so that was very good. Safe to say, that was a massive improvement. Anyway, the weather was kind of grey, but it wasn't wet and it wasn't particularly cold, and quite a few people had the same idea to go to Tintagle on New Year's Day, but it wasn't too busy. It was actually very nice, and I felt like we got there at the right time. When we left, there were a load more people coming, so overall, it went quite well. Bear in mind that you do have to pay for Tintagle to get there, and the parking is like pay and display up by like a pub, etc, etc. And it is quite a distance from the castle itself, so like be prepared to walk quite a way if you're going to visit here. Very nice though, it's a lovely walk, and it's a lovely little village that is very, very much leaning into the King Arthur theme, even though there's actually not that much connection between Tintagle and King Arthur. Apparently he was born there, which is quite interesting. Honestly, what I found most interesting about the place was the actual castle walls and how they look now. Me and my boyfriend have visited a load of castles in Ireland, etc, etc, and like the rocks do not look like this, the walls do not look like this. They are usually bare, but here in Cornwall they are covered in grass and plants and everything because the climate is that much warmer. And I just find that really interesting, and it means they really blend into the landscape, and I don't know, it's really cute. Also, the cliffs around here were absolutely gorgeous. Like, I don't really see that much where I live, but further down and up here it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. Here you can see some of the walls that I mentioned. They are just so green and they really stood out considering the weather was so grey. While the weather was pretty warm and dry, it was also incredibly windy, so there were like loads of waves, and being right up on these cliffs, I felt like I was going to get blown off every 2 seconds. And there was this one guy walking around in just a shirt, like just a t-shirt, and I'm like, how can you do this? Like, I felt like I was going to go flying, and this guy is just walking around acting like it's the height of summer. As we got to like the top of the cliffs, the wind like really picked up, and I hadn't really noticed it much like further down, but as soon as we got up here, I'm like, yeah, I'm staying away from that edge. You do not need to tempt me. I'm not going near your steep drop sign, because I'm somewhat afraid of heights. Well, I'm not particularly afraid of heights themselves, more of falling off and dying. Like that generally is quite a big worry when I'm on an object with a steep drop. I'm sure most people think that way though. It kind of bemuses me how people lived up here, because they've got all these like houses, all these settlements, or like remains of them anyway, up here on this really windy cliff, and yet it's so windy, why would you want to live here? Like, there's no way like they would have been able to farm or anything here. There's no room for animals, there's no room for crops, so they just chilling on the cliff and having to bring everything over a land bridge that was there once, which no longer is there because erosion. Why would you live on the edge of a cliff? Why? You know, as someone who lives on the coast, why do people build houses on the beach? I see these pictures from like America where they've literally built houses on the cliff, and then not on the cliff, on the actual beach, on the sand, and everyone's like, oh look, oh, it's the climate change. No, you built your house on a beach. Yes, one day it will fall into the water. That is what happens. And yeah, climate change does affect that. But why would you build on sand? Don't do it. Terrible idea. Waves go in, out, and one day so does your house. Sorry, I get very passionate about dumb sea things. Like, please do not have a picnic underneath a collapsing cliff. Terrible idea. The sea is very dangerous. Generally, stay away from it. Like, waves are very cool to look at, but not very cool to like drown in, I've discovered. I got caught in a riptide once, and that was like very scary. I would not recommend doing that ever again. Anyway, while I was walking down these steps, I managed to bite my tongue and it was very painful, but don't worry, I cut that part of the footage out because I kind of like dropped my phone and it went at a weird angle and we're just gonna like... It wasn't very... It hurt. One thing I must say about Tintagle is I appreciate the dedication to the stone paths. Like, they clearly put a lot of effort into them. I presume not all of them are ancient paths. I presume when it was made into a tourist attraction, they added more paths because obviously, yeah. But like, the dedication to stay on theme, very good. Here is some more footage to emphasize how dangerous water is. It's also very pretty, but observe from distance. I believe one of the caves here was supposed to be Merlin's cave, but I'm not actually sure which one because there wasn't a sign. Anyway, more scary water, woo! I should mention that I don't think we had any breakfast this day and it was quite a long drive, so we went straight to the cafe afterwards.